Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Administrator Marstad, for joining us today for our second NFIP reauthorization hearing. As I mentioned at our last hearing, finding a consensus on reauthorization will be challenging and time is tight, but it's important that we try to do this. I am ready to work, and I hope we can reach an agreement on a long-term reauthorization that improves the program. But first, let me take a moment to remind everyone of the scope of the NFIP's challenges. In the last 16 years, the NFIP has had to borrow nearly $40 billion to pay claims. In other words, the NFIP has lost an average of about $2.25 billion per year over the last 16 years, and these are multiple different events, not just a single event. These losses are particularly shocking in the context of the NFIP's annual premiums collected, which is $4.6 billion. So clearly, the NFIP systematically underprices flood insurance. And frustratingly, it's the policies of Congress that are the root cause of this, not FEMA. During our last hearing, I discussed several of my priorities in reauthorization. And first, I would say, is let's do no harm. And right now, under existing law, NFIP is moving toward an actuarially sound premium program. We should not interrupt that progress. Second, we should encourage more private capital in the form of private policies and private reinsurance. Third, to the extent that subsidies persist, they really should be better targeted. And fourth, I think we should improve communication with homeowners and home buyers so that they understand fully the flood risk of properties that they own or are contemplating buying. Let me elaborate a little bit. First, on do no harm. As our understanding of flood risk change, we need to allow NFIP to keep up with those changes. For instance, I've long heard complaints about mapping, and I agree we need better flood maps, and I support taking steps to improve maps. But in some ways, better mapping it's really a means to an end. It's not an end unto itself. Mapping, in fact, is the easy part in a way. The hard part is using those improved maps to better plan development, mitigate risk, and price flood insurance premiums appropriately. Fortunately, FEMA is moving in the right direction with its development of Risk Rating 2.0. FEMA has worked for years to build a better risk rating model, and it incorporates far more granular data in setting premiums, including geography and flooding frequency and flooding types, river versus ocean, and building characteristics. And when Risk Rating 2.0 is implemented, we'll not only have a more fair NFIP, but also a more fiscally sound NFIP. So reauthorization really should not interrupt the implementation of Risk Rating 2.0. Of course, that implementation will be a challenge. After all, NFIP has been using more or less the same old system for the last half century. Administrator Marstad, I encourage you to continue to work hand in glove with the Write Your Own insurers who sell and service NFIP policies. I certainly hope that there won't be a turbulent rollout, because that could be used by some as an opportunity to kill some really important reforms and improvements in the program. And while successful implementation of Risk Rating 2.0 will make NFIP a better program, it won't be a perfect program, and that's one of the reasons why I think we should continue to facilitate expansion of the private flood insurance market. My home state of Pennsylvania has been a leader on this front. As of January of this year, there were nearly 13,000 private flood insurance policies in Pennsylvania. That's almost 20% of all Pennsylvania flood insurance policies. And private uptake should come as no surprise. NFIP data on Risk Rating 2.0 implementation reveals that millions of American policyholders are currently overpaying for flood insurance. Over 200,000 NFIP policyholders are overpaying by at least $100 a month. That's $1,200 per year. And besides competing on price, private flood may bring better products, maybe all-peril coverage, which would mean no more debate about whether a claim results from water or wind damage. And further, private flood insurance brings more capacity to the market. That means more uptake by more homeowners, which I think is a good thing. It also means more resources to process claims after a major flooding event like Superstorm Sandy, an event that, as my colleagues know all too well, overwhelmed FEMA. Finally, I just want to briefly touch on subsidies within NFIP. As a general principle, I don't think we should be encouraging people to live in flood-prone areas by providing flood insurance subsidies, but I acknowledge that over the past 50 years, NFIP has acclimated homeowners to a world in which these subsidies do exist. And so it'd be unfair to suddenly and completely remove them, but in the interest of fairness and program solvency, I think these property-based subsidies should be phased out over time. Today, properties with subsidized NFIP premiums are overwhelmingly located in our wealthiest communities, and subsidized NFIP premiums are rare in lower-income communities. How does that make sense? I'm open to finding ways to help current low-income owners afford flood insurance, but such help should not interrupt a long-term trend towards true risk-based NFIP premiums. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I think the current system of NFIP is not working properly. It's problematic for taxpayers who have to bail it out year in and year out. It's bad for homeowners and future homeowners from whom NFIP obscures the true nature of the flood risk. I recognize we can't fix it all overnight, but I think the 2.0 reforms are a step in the right direction, and we can use reauthorization as an opportunity to move further in a better direction. Thank you.